A very good afternoon to all the people who are joining us for this session of D-Talks or Disruptive Literacy Talks. I'm your host, Mashood Bhatt. I would like to welcome all of you to a very special session with a very phenomenal speaker that we are having today. Yesterday, the focus of the D-Talks was on education and literacy of the girl child, where we had wonderful speakers as well. But today, the focus of D-Talks will be on the role of CSR, corporate social responsibility, in accelerating literacy and quality education as per the commitments of the SDG 4 and the National Education Policy. Today, we have a wonderful personality. He needs no introduction, but I'll still share something about him. He is a leading voice and figure in the field of CSR in India. He has a very eminent career, almost 4 decades of experience as a banker and CSR professional. And many of us are also, we follow him as a very athletic person who has completed nearly 51 marathons in his career. And more recently, he is also a prolific speaker. And in the past 1 year itself, he has shared his opinions in almost 175 talks. Very recently, he's completed his tenure as the President and Chief Operating Officer of the SBI Foundation and has received many awards, including the Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Award as well for professional excellence. So with that, we would like to invite our first speaker, Mr. Nixon Joseph, sir. Thank you, sir, so much for joining us and for your very valuable time.
Thank you, Mashood. Thank you.
Also joining us in this very interesting conversation with Mr. Nixon Joseph, sir, is the convener and the chief worker at Global Dream, Dr. Sunita Gandhi. Thank you, ma'am, so much for joining us in this talk. And we hope that it's going to be a wonderful conversation with sir and you.
I look forward to it. Thank you so much. I've always admired Joseph, sir. I'm so happy that he's in a conversation with me on this most pertinent issue, which is the widening gap of literacy and what we can do to disrupt literacy.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So on that note, let's start a conversation. So, sir, the first question which I wanted to put across was very recently you have completed a very illustrious and long career at SBI Foundation, and recently you have retired as the President and COO. So in your tenure at SBI Foundation, with so many achievements, with so many things that has been done, towards social development, if you would like to share, some of your fondest memories or fondest, projects that you have led, especially in the field of education and literacy, it would be wonderful to start this conversation on that note.
Sure, thank you. At the outset, I thank Ms. Sunita Gandhi for inviting me for this D-Talks, and on a very, very relevant topic about foundation literacy. And education, as we know, is one of the important tools to bring socio-economic transformation within society. And SBI Foundation, when it started, it had as a mandate to bring a positive difference in the lives of the marginalized. So therefore, we had to support various programs in thematic areas like education, healthcare, women empowerment, livelihood, etc. And education occupied a very significant position because, as I told, we can bring about change or transformation in society only if we focus on education, that to quality education. So we have developed several programs which would, like, to some extent justify the right to education, which has already been given to us. And we thought that it should not be just a right to education, it should be right to quality education. So we have tied up with various NGOs to bring about some change or bring about some difference in the lives of the children. We have a project in Gujarat where we are providing quality education to almost 1,800 underprivileged children from the slums. And they are of classes grades 4 to 8, and they are receiving quality education. We have another program in Meghalaya where we are improving the quality of teaching in early education in Anganwadis. So we are almost covering 3,000 Anganwadis in the state of Meghalaya, which will benefit almost 60,000 children and their caregivers. So a different program is being brought out to improve the quality of education in Anganwadis. Similarly, we have programs elsewhere on a school-based child sexual abuse prevention and intervention program in Mumbai. Then we have programs like Beti Padhao for taking care of girls who have skipped their early childhood education. And these Beti Padhao Kendras, we had supported almost 200 of them in the states of Bihar, Chhattisgarh, Madhya Pradesh, Odisha, and Uttarakhand. And they take care of girl child between the age of 6 to 14 years. And along with focus on education or curriculum and all, we have also supported sports in schools, because we always believed that apart from literacy, we should also focus on physical literacy. So physical literacy doesn't mean we have to play games and become champions or win medals. Physical literacy is just moving your body, maybe by dancing, by throwing the ball, or jumping or running, just some activities which will move your body, because physical literacy also in the long run will help in making a better student or help the student in his absorbing study education, etc. So that is something which we focus. So there are several schools where we have supported sports. And then one of the innovations we have not we have brought about or we have participated in the development impact bonds, which was aimed to improve the language learning outcomes of 16,000 children across 483 schools of Ambala district in Haryana, where we have partnered with the Language Learning Foundation, and we are trying to improve the quality of education, capacity building of teachers, etc., so that children are able to read, write their languages. Because we all know that many of our children are not able to read language, they are not able to write properly. So in this project, we are trying to improve the early language learning outcomes. And this is a development impact bond in the sense that if the NGO is able to achieve 100% of the goal, another 10% of the project outlay will come as a way of incentive. At the same time, if they are not able to achieve, 10% of the funds will be given to funders like us. So there is like we are, it's an innovative financing to support CSR projects. So these are some of the important projects we have done as part of CSR activities of SBA Foundation. But I will also tell that we have adopted almost 75 villages all over India in remote places like Uttar Pradesh, Assam, Meghalaya, Mizoram, Nagaland, Maharashtra, Telangana, etc., where we are also providing remedial classes to children, marginalized children from marginalized families, so that they can make up for the lack of quality education. So, and one thing I should tell that in all these initiatives, there has been a lot of enthusiasm from the side of the children. And in some cases, even parents took great interest that some of them have started attending the classes. So when we do some program, I think that it is creating so many collateral benefits. So even this program which give like a dream global dream project, like we should not think it as a program only to improve functional foundational literacy. It will also create a very good environment for learning. So that is also there, and also we are spreading the message of hope. So we should approach these projects and all in that way, like it's spreading the message of hope that there are people who are taking care of marginalized people, and there is also a way to like get quality education by or improve our literacy by taking part in these programs and all. And finally, it is improving the spirit of resilience among the marginalized people. Thank you.
Absolutely. I think that's a very important message that the by the work which is which is happening in literacy and education, it's also about creating chains of change of inspiring other people to also work as well. Dr. Gandhi, through the work which you've been doing at Global Dream, do you feel would you like to share your insight on how, when we work on literacy and education of children who come from underprivileged backgrounds, how does that also inspire people, like what sir was saying about inspiring more people to join the movement? So what is the importance of that in making any project successful?
I think one of the things, and I would love to have Joseph G's view on this also. One of the things that I've been feeling as a pedagogue, as somebody who's, has a laboratory of many children whom I can try the ideas on and take an experimental approach. I feel that we are very much going in the direction of taking care of some children or some people, um, and the need is far greater. So if we could somehow take an experimental approach and allow a lot more innovation, uh, so that we can come up with more catalytic ways of expanding our work. I mean, it makes no sense at all that we have to do remedial teaching. Why teach them first in the wrong way and then, or don't teach them adequately, and then we have to compensate for that? So, and then amongst all the kind of projects that you've mentioned, which is quite a vast range and an amazing range of work that you have led at the SBI Foundation, I think that and that's definitely very valuable. But amongst them, there must be some who have collected data, who are really outstanding in terms of, when you say results. Of course, one is that they fulfill the goals of the project. So if you'd mentioned something like 1,800 children in Gujarat being given a quality education, and they met that goal. But what next? Like, should that not be shared with everyone? If it's gone well, what was their formula? How did they work on it? So the questions like that are in my mind. I think with me there are more questions, Joseph G, than answers. But I have taken an experimental approach with Global Dream, and the idea that we can do things which are far better with that experimental approach. And I wish there would be the possibility with foundations such as the SBI Foundation and HCL and so many others, that they would be the smaller players as well, because a lot of the foundations require that you already be a very big NGO. What if you're an educator doing experimental work? You don't have all that kind of money, that you can show 1 crore worth of revenue. You've never bothered with raising money. Your project has been more about going and doing something really amazing and great, and developing a scale up model. And I think that the most of the funding agencies in India tend to want you already to be very successful. So a lot of good people who are doing work at the very grassroots level, who have never bothered to have any money on their minds, how do they come to a fore and expand their work?
Dr. Sujita, you have like focused or given like attention to a very important issue. Like here, I would only tell that CSR in India is evolving. Therefore, at present, what is happening is that all the funds, foundations, all these are from corporates, and they bring their corporate approach in appraising the projects of NGOs. And also, like whatever best practices are there, like I know this global dream project of this foundation literacy is quite successful and brings literacy within a short period. But then sharing such practices and implementing them on a large scale, that trend I think is yet to happen in the CSR sector. What I have also observed like you is that each corporate has its own foundation, and then it supports its own projects. And to see that that element of not taking risk with the new NGOs, etc., that aspect is also happening. That is why maybe like new NGOs or NGOs who are experimenting with new projects which are really efficient, etc., are not getting funds. But I feel in the years to come, as CSR evolves in India, all there will be a lot of change in the way projects are looked upon, and that is something I think we have to hope for. Otherwise, as you told, I fully agree. At present, it's maybe quite challenging for small NGOs and all to attract funds from CSR foundations.
Right. Right. So here I would like to bring another question, sir, which is about how can corporate foundations and implementing civil society organizations and NGOs, which you've just given reference to, how can sustainable relationships between these two be built? In your experience, the in cases where the CSRs and NGOs have built successful relationships, especially in education, where we know there's a long term, the outcome comes in a long term, maybe not in 3 months, maybe not in 6 months, as many other areas you can create a turnover, but education needs long term sustainability. So, in that sense, what would be some important factors that ensure that there's a strong, sustainable relationship and that converts into impact?
Okay, fine. It's a very interesting question. See, after the CSR, an average 20,000 crores of rupees are expected to come as into the CSR kitty. And also the CSR rules lay down that funders can partner with NGOs to implement their projects. So they can do it on their own or like a partner with tie up with NGOs. So there has been like a lot of tie up with NGOs post this amendment in the company's rules, and therefore a lot of NGOs have been able to raise funds from the corporate sector. But here, as projects like education, health, or women empowerment, many of these projects are not short term; these are of long term, and therefore, instead of considering it as a funder and implementing agency, it has to be a partnership, because it is a project which has to be implemented by the funder as well as the implementing agency. So it is a partnership. And here what happens is that since it is a partnership relation, the funder who is occupying a higher position will try to like enter into this partnership only after considering due diligence, a detailed due diligence. Because the funder is accountable to the board, which is a corporate board, who will be asking them about how the funds were, whether the funds were properly utilized, what are the indicators, how, what has been impact, outcome of this project, impact, all these things and all. So this has to be reported to the board. So in that background, corporates go for NGOs who will be able to deliver the projects efficiently and within the timelines. So the selection of NGOs also, onwards, this due diligence process comes into play, and this may be quite challenging for small NGOs, because in the due diligence process we see whether they are having a HR policy, whether they are having a procurement policy, whether their boards meet frequently, how many of them are independent members, whether there are thematic experts in the board, and what has been the track record of the NGO, whether they will be able to implement a project of a sizable proportion, because in their balance sheet we see only a very poor track record, not poor track record, the turnover has been of insignificant amount, and also how the NGO has been measuring their project success so far. So all these details come into play, and therefore it could be challenging for small NGOs. But at the same time, why these things are being asked is, one, a partnership is going to be built for so many years. Second, accountability comes in. Accountability, because the funds are being shared with the implementing agency, whether they'll be able to implement it in the way the funder wants it. And then a lot of transparency we look into, and this is something I think all NGOs should be concerned about, because in the website which the NGO is having, we should have all the details about the NGO, how the funds have come, how the funds have gone, which are the projects being implemented, what has been the outcome of the project, what has been the success stories. All these should be there in the website so that it becomes very transparent. And also, the success stories should be available everywhere. It should be published so that in the social media or wherever possible, so that it's not only visibility that you are going to like present a project which has been successful. From there, many other NGOs can learn also. So all these things are required, therefore, for the relation to be sustainable, the NGO funder relation to be sustainable. One, I told you, transparency, efficiency, doing things within the timelines, all these are required, and also some amount of IT skills. Like digitization is required in the NGO sector, so that the reports, data which are being asked by the funder can be submitted at any time. Because what I have observed in many cases is that implementing agencies give least importance to the data or reports asked by the funder. It becomes a challenge because the funder is also accountable to the board. So they will have to show to them that these things are happening, this is the way it is spent, this is how we are monitoring, this is the outcome, success of the project, etc. But there I find there some kind of lag is there, in the sense that many of the NGOs, when it is asked, they tell development sector is like that. Things take place very slowly. But that could be the things. Change may happen slowly in the development sector. But for reporting, collecting data, reporting, there is no excuse for delay or lag. That is something I have to observe here. And then, as one thing I will tell you, that highly educated youth are not coming to the NGO sector. That is a fact. And therefore, the capacity building of NGOs is also a matter to be considered by the corporate funders, which doesn't happen, because we want the project to be done with the maximum efficiency, that we don't set apart some amount to build the capacity of our own partner. I'll tell you, not NGO, a partner with whom we have partnered with. The relation is going to be more than 3 or 5 years. I think this has not come in CSR rules, and maybe when in the days to come, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs should see that some amount should be set apart for capacity building of NGO partners.
Right.
Thank you.
I think that that's a very important point where you mentioned about that in order for the partnership to be successful, one it needs to be seen as a truly participative partnership where it's not, a donor is giving money to an implementing NGO, but it's a true partnership in that sense. And also talking about the capacity building of NGOs as well. So one point which Nixon Joseph sir has mentioned, which I would like to put to Dr. Gandhi as well, which where he talked about the importance of evidence. in ensuring that more and more people join any initiative which is being taken by an organization. So, in your experience of so many years of working on literacy, on innovative pedagogies with children across the world in different countries, how important has evidence been in and research been in your work in literacy, and what would you suggest to all the people, all these peer NGOs that are watching this show about maintaining evidence and what the objectives of that evidence?
Obviously, I agree with Joseph, sir, that it's really important to keep that dialogue, discussion, transparency with the donor agency and call them as partners. And true partnership requires a lot of communication. And communication has to be exact, honest, with a high level of integrity. Data has to flow both ways, as well as capacity building, and that can be done through interaction. Like in the private sector, when you're going to raise some money with a venture capital group or a private equity, they come and sit on your board, and they tend to at least provide guidance. And they're people who look at the whole thing from a different perspective. So there is a valuable value addition to working in a partnership. And if we are really honest about what we're really trying to accomplish, I think we should welcome that. Secondly, in this age of technology and with mobile apps and all that, I think a lot of NGOs are getting to the point where they're getting very swift with their data collection and putting them in the right formats for their communication. So that's also very much a part of evidence that they need to build, not just at sporadic deadlines or whatever, but throughout the process. And I think that should be encouraged because it's so easy to connect now and to collect the data as well. Because I remember in 2015 when I had started to work on literacy in 2014. In 2015, we did a massive survey involving 4,000 government school teachers of Lucknow district and training them to carry out a door-to-door survey of what turned out to be something like 16 lakh people in 3.96 lakh households of Lucknow district, and that covered all the rural districts, rural blocks rather, and some of the urban wards on sample basis. And that was a massive exercise. We collected tons of data in written format, and then it took about a year to enter that data. Now that's totally not necessary. We could have thought of that then because it was possible to make apps. But now, in a jiffy we can make them and we can go to the right people, and so we can collect data in a vastly different way. So data collection is good and easier. The other point is that if we also do a little bit of prior thinking and make our projects accountable in one more way, which is basically a research responsiveness, if you like, to the project. So we collect baseline and endline data, midline data, which a lot of NGOs do, but also the idea of a control group, which a lot of NGOs do not do. Because if you don't have a control group, you can show improvement in a particular group. Let's say the Gujarat project, 1,800 kids. Quality is a very elusive term. How do you quantify, or even with the qualitative evidence, how do you collect that evidence? It is something that needs discussion a priori, and planning of the control group and treatment group both, and then collecting that evidence and doing a proper data analyses to show what was the improvement, what was the delta in the process.
Absolutely. So clearly, evidence is very important, and if it's built into the design of the projects, that it'll really help all stakeholders associated with the project to build to kind of be accountable to each other, to also have that sense of trust and transparency as well. Coming to literacy, again, we are seeing an unprecedented time where almost of more than a year of school closures, and a lot of evidence of learning losses as well happening, and because the whole system of teaching and learning has shifted to online. There was a report which said that nearly 3 out of 4 children in India do not have access to digital devices and internet. So there's a massive digital divide, and a lot of immediate focus is happening more on survival, ensuring nutrition, basic survival. Whereas it seems like, education and literacy, and the commitments that we had made to sustainable development goals of, having universal foundational literacy by 2030, might have seen a major hit. So my question to both Nixon ji and Sunita ji is this: that how do we ensure that when the current COVID crisis ends, how do we ensure that literacy becomes a very important priority, and how do we ensure that this reversal of efforts, of years of efforts which have got a reversal, how do we ensure that we are back on track and we quickly move towards these commitments which we have made under SDG 4 and the new national education policy? So sir, if you'd like to go first on this.
I will first hear from Dr. Gandhi, and I will come back.
Sir, my humble opinion is that when we are looking at this vast problem called literacy, that has had really no real immediate solutions, and it's been a perennial problem. We're talking about three levels. One is children who are out of school, children who are within school not getting adequate foundational literacy skills early on, and that means they're afflicted with their learning, may even drop out of school later on. So that is clearly an area of concern, and it's been a perennial concern area. And the third is children who became adults and missed the chance to be literate, and that's a big bulk. I mean, India contributes the largest share to this problem in the world. And I think it's 4 times the size of France, for example, the population of the adult illiterates. So the problem is huge. We can't deny that. Secondly, maybe there is a little bit of denial as to the problem, needing a lot of solution. I think early on when I came back to India and I started to work on these issues, some of the people would say to me, oh, it'll just go away by attrition. People become older and older and they go away, so the problem will go away. And or I don't see any illiterates around me, where are they? Or all the children are in school, they're not out of school. Or those who are in school, they're getting a good education. So we have to demystify ourselves. Secondly, what I feel is anything that you want to really focus upon, we need to now, because this is taken on humongous proportions, we need to target it in a time-bound manner. And this is something we've not been able to do. So lots of good efforts are being done. But what I'm proposing is the idea, to bring literacy to number one priority by the country, because countries that have done it have seen huge improvements in their literacy. Secondly, most of them have done it through a people's movement. And we have precedents here in India through Ernakulam, literacy movement that took place in 1989, a long time ago, and others followed from that experiment. But maybe if they can take 1 year to make the entire district literate, which is about the same level of illiteracy as India is today, and if all districts of India take it up, I think we can cure the problem of illiteracy in 1 or 2 years. And I think that's what we need to do. We need to take a very decisive action, and this comes from the government, and then all CSR, rallies behind, as well as all the NGOs, all the civic society members, all the institutions, the schools, the children in schools and in colleges, BEd, BTC, so many places. So it comes through law of governance. I think government has the most important role in taking that decisive action, just like government did with the polio project many years ago. So Pulse Polio was a campaign in which every single government staff was involved. Similarly, as we were trying to do with Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Now, if literacy is taken up as number one priority, I think we can do this in 2 years, and we'll show the world how it's possible, because this is the need of the hour. So I think after the COVID, number one priority should be literacy, because it is actually eroding us from within. It's actually causing huge damage to our economy, not having our children that opportunity, or the adults the opportunity to become literate. The last point I'd like to make related to that, and I think I'd love to have Joseph G's view on it, is that literacy in the past would take so long. And that is a perception even the learners have. They think, oh, 2 years, 3 years, I don't have time. What if we told them, and this is the experimental work that we have done at Global Dream, what if we told them, no, it's not going to take so long. In 30 hours, you'll be literate. I mean, I think we'll have more takers. And also it means that the people's movement will be more successful, because you need primers, you need materials that meet the imagination of young and old who can just grab that and run with it. And in relation to that, also having technology-led platforms, and I know many NGOs have developed them, that those can be used to really accelerate literacy. But then who brings it all together? What is the thread? And that is the government. And government, if it takes decisive action, I think we can accomplish this within 2 years. People are waiting. People are waiting and ready to pool in and their efforts.
Thank you.
Right.
See,
So, yes.
this pandemic has further exposed our developmental challenges. And even before the pandemic, our healthcare sector was not doing well. Education sector was not doing well. Quality of education, everyone knew, was not to the desired extent. So COVID has only exposed all these things. And post-COVID, if we see, priority will naturally go to healthcare, livelihood, because he has already told it is a question about life. So CSR sector also, I foresee that funds will go to healthcare, livelihood, but at the same time, education also should get equal priority. So it would be nice if the government, like in a mission mode, tells that this year we will be all CSR funds should go only towards health, education, and livelihood. Then for 1 year at least, we will get a good focus on education. Or maybe this year, if they are focusing on healthcare, they can tell next year our focus will be on education, so that education will get the desired focus. Also, like we see, so many NGOs are doing lot of initiatives, interventions in education. There has to be a platform where all these can be displayed, all the successful one which can be scaled up. Because if this program like Global Dream, but they're able to provide foundational literacy within a short period, and it is based on evidence, so such a program can be scaled up all over India. So this has to be like, there has to be a platform where really successful programs are available, and then CSR funders can be told that you adopt these successful programs. That is something which that will be an ideal situation. And as for like a foundational literacy for everyone, our goal and all to achieve, lot of stakeholder involvement is required. It has to be in partnership with the government. Partnership with the government means we should get sufficient support from the government authorities at the district level, taluk level, village level, etc. And also the involvement of the community. There has to be, I think we should spread awareness amongst the community that there are successful programs with which we will be able to give them foundational literacy, and also this will help them in various ways in the days to come. Because without foundation literacy, you cannot go up at all. You cannot have a better economic life, I feel. So this is something we have to do, involving the stakeholders. And I feel that the Ernakulam project has been successful because of the involvement of all the stakeholders. And be it the government authorities, and be it other schools or voluntary organizations, all these together took part in it. And it was done with a higher purpose, I believe, that to be 100% literate. And that pride was there. Once we achieve it, it's going to be 100% literate, like that. It was achieved. So, and similarly, I would prefer all the like our graduates, our college students should be asked to do some volunteering service for 1 month or something, so that successful projects like this can be implemented all over India. Now, I have found of late many of the youths, many of the colleges are taking a lot of interest in CSR activities, volunteering activities also. Many youths are very keen for volunteering activities. I have found even during COVID times, when I was interviewing, interacting with the 700 shortlisted candidates for the SBI Youth for India Fellowship Program, I asked these youths, they're very highly educated youth who have studied in Stanford, Columbia, Harvard, London School of Economics, IIMs, etc. I asked them, is it the right time for you to go to join a rural fellowship and go to the villages when COVID at its peak? But then I was inspired, amazed by the answers given by these youths of average age 24, that they were telling if we want to help them, this is the best opportunity to go. And also, they were telling that we have been highly privileged to get this sort of education. So, it's the time to give back to society, at least make a positive difference. And they were, I think it inspired me so much by this answer. Many of them told me that for taking care of some people, for doing a kind act, for giving back to society, there is no specific time. Pandemic or no pandemic, we can do it. So what I want to reinforce is that there are a lot of youths who want to give back and who are interested in volunteer service. And I would tell that it should come from the government side, that this should be made mandatory for all the college students, so that successful CSR and this one foundation literacy for all the all 100% foundation literacy. There's something to be done in a mission mode, and for that, everyone should be driven at least for 1 year. Then we can see the results. Instead of scattered initiatives here and there, if all the universities in India, all the colleges in India, all the NGOs or all the CSR funders focus on education for 1 year, that will be a tremendous change.
Gee, sir, I totally am, in consonance with that idea, because if Ernakulam was 26% illiterate in 1989, and they could accomplish their entire district become literate in that 1 year, then India, being 26% illiterate right now, can become literate in 1 year. So
Yes.
we can reach the last child and the last adult in year two, and just fine tune and maybe continuous learning as well. So it becomes stronger and firmed up the learning. So the idea of a people's movement is something that will engage the imagination of young and old, and everybody wants a movement at this point. People are tired of just talking about things. They want to get involved. If they could not get directly involved with the COVID, they now can contribute through this, and I think people are waiting and ready, and NGOs
True.
and
Yes.
organizations all over the country.
Right. So here we would like to also take some questions from some of the audience members. So Shifali is asking, sir, I think it's directed to Nixon ji. Sir, how can employees of multinational companies help in improving education or literacy in the country on a personal level? I sense it's also reference to everyone's working from home, and on mostly on Zoom and also how can volunteerism be driven, if I may just add to this, by full-time working professionals, for example. uh, so Nixon, would you like to answer that?
See, many of the MNCs, many of the corporates have started implementing this volunteering policy for their employees, and therefore I have found like many of the IT companies allow free leave, free holidays to their employees to do volunteering activities. And these are all done in a structured manner. They keep a record of the hours spent, all these things, it is happening. And to that question, how can we do it? I'll tell you, during this COVID period, what we can do, pandemic time, we can do only online volunteering. That also is happening in many places, online volunteering. And like our fellows who were focusing on education in schools now, like they left the location due to COVID. They're also trying to help the children by online ways, by like WhatsApp or like online ways. They are trying to be in touch with the children and trying to improve it. So like if there is a like interest in volunteering, there are a lot of opportunities available. And I will tell you, there are so many NGOs who are looking for volunteers. Okay, now because of this pandemic, we may not be able to go to the location and do volunteering. But then there are a lot of ways in which we can help those NGOs, maybe by preparing the content, the audiovisual content, or preparing colorful pamphlets, teaching materials. All these, there are a lot of ways in which anyone, not only people of MNC companies, but anyone, there are a lot of opportunities for volunteering. And best way will be to get in touch with the nearest NGO. Thank you.
Okay. So Shifali, that's the answer for your question. We also have another question coming from
Mashood,
Trisha.
can I just
Yes,
take it for a minute? This particular question
sure.
is quite, an important one because we've had
Mhm.
interactions with the Adobe Foundation where the,
Yes.
various members are willing to help, and so we have to think of a modality how. Obviously, it'll be nice if they adopt a family um, that is underprivileged family and mentor them, like especially the children, so they once a week call in or uh, every day call in and see what they're up to and all that. Some kind of mentoring is good because actually everybody needs some kind of a guardian or a champion who works for them, so they can be the champions for these children. And also one thing that's really beautiful is that if they're working at different corporates, obviously they're successful individuals. They can adopt them for the long term and also bring aspirational goals to them, because they can say, you can do it, you have all the capacity. And that's such an important contribution that they can make. Financially, of course, they can help them. If they need college admission, if they need help, information, they can provide that. Financially, they can help them in some way or the other. But one of the projects that I've got right now is foster parenting opportunity, or God parenting opportunity, where we have 200 children in Lucknow whose one or both parents have become orphaned. And while we are willing to provide them full education for free, and that's what we have offered to the government of UP, but wouldn't it be lovely if you could do, all the children of UP and all the children of the country? So, they need champions, and we'd love to hear from people who want to become their champions. The other way, as Sir alluded to, they can make content like we have right now for Global Dream. We need people who have expertise, who can give us the support to build up the content in iSpring and XAPI. And we need to have more help with the apps and so forth, with surveys and so many things that they can do sitting at home.
A- Absolutely. So, one important point which has just come out is, and for anyone who's watching this, is also that if you are willing to volunteer, there are a lot of opportunities where you can make a social impact while giving 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours every day. After your work, remotely. We understand. Right now it might be difficult for everyone to be on the field and contribute in that way, but there's always an opportunity and a very rewarding opportunity to volunteer as well. We have another question from Trisha Mahajan, where she has asked that I would like to ask, why do most of the corporates allocate the funds to health primarily, and why education takes a backseat? Of course, in the current context, because of the health crisis, we are seeing health being the primary investment. But I would like to add to this question and put this forward. Both health and education are so important. I mean, learning can only happen when the child is in a healthy, physical and mental state of. Is it possible, for convergence of organizations who are working on education to collaborate with organizations working on health, and together move ahead and receive support from CSR? If Nixonji, would you like to comment on that aspect as well? And after that, Sunita.
Yeah. Yes. Before pandemic, the CSR funds were going mostly to the education sector. Only since this pandemic has come, the funds have started going to the healthcare sector. And now I see that for the next 1 year, maybe most of the funds will be going to the healthcare sector only, because that is where now lot of demand is there. Education, like we cannot like see that education like is neglected, and only health is taken care of, because for a like development to take place, all these have to be attended to in a holistic manner. If you skip education now, we are in the long run adversely affecting the employment opportunities of the students, or even the knowledge of the students in the long run. And at the same time, health is also required, because if health is not there, it will be difficult to absorb education. So all these things are there, and therefore, see why corporates give importance to education or health. What I understand is that at least most of the corporates, why they do it, like we can see some immediate results. You donate computers to the school. You can take a photo, 100 computers donated to the school students, or books distributed, or we have constructed something, some building, etc. Results are seen like that. It's only now that long-term projects like improving quality of education, or like foundation literacy, all these are catching up now only because people understand that it's not just projects. We should also focus on the long term impact. This was not happening in the initial years. We were all focusing on outcome only. Like there was a incident, like project where NGO was given funds to train 100 visually challenged youths. And then it was very fine. Photos were there. Youths are getting trained. They are doing a lot of audio visual or all these things. Everything were there fine. And got like when we see the photos or PowerPoint, we feel very impressed. The 100 youths are getting trained. But then finally, what happened is that placement went to only 20 or 25 of them. 25% placement. And out of those who were placed also, many of them dropped out because they couldn't move from the rural area to urban area for education, etc. They have to find something in the urban area, where to stay accommodation, or whom to depend. All these things are there. So when we work on projects, all these are not taken into consideration. We give a simple project, buy equipments, digital literacy classroom, fine. Then but then now corporates are moving a little ahead also. I find many corporates, they ask about sustainability, about the long term impact of these projects, etc. Because in the case which I told, if that those 100 youths are not getting employed and well placed, it's a waste of resources. There has been only outcome. It is good for annual reports of corporates. It is a good like a picture of the NGO. NGOs also
Hmm.
can raise funds telling we trade 100 people. But what I want to tell is that even in education, we should come with a project. We can come with projects involving health also, because that is also very important. When you go to school, there has to be proper sanitation, proper toilet facilities, proper drinking water. All these are related to health, but then this is also education. In a liberal way, these are all education. And also this carries, like when you like install like give drinking water, you give the message that you should drink only good water.
Hmm.
And that's also a learning. And washroom practices, etc. These are all learnings. So these are also different form of education. Therefore, a project which combines education and health also will be supported, and will have a lot of donors, I'm sure.
Yes, I do agree that there has to be a holistic aspect to the whole development of the person. I think when you adopt a child, you're thinking in every possible way to help them. Similarly, when you have an adult who's suffering with a health problem, it envelops the whole family. We need to take more holistic view to helping them, not just for that time being, but also learning is going to be integral and very important because you're teaching them to fish, not just eat for the day.
True.
Absolutely. So on that note, we move towards the concluding aspect of our session. I think it has been an absolutely phenomenal conversation with wonderful perspectives which have been shared, and some things which we would like to also take back from this conversation is number one, that when we are talking about interventions, in this partnership or relationship between CSRs and organizations, it's important it's important for both the parties to have a true partnership in spirit, and also transparency, accountability, sustainability. All these are very, very important aspects which Nixon ji has also showered a lot of insights and light on, and also how we can, while years of efforts have been put back, especially in the field of foundation learning, because of the crisis which is happening right now, and because of the learning losses. But there is light at the end of the tunnel as well, where we can have many interventions of getting stakeholders together. Volunteerism will have an important role. Government will have an important role. But of course, the corporate sector and CSRs will have an equally important role in providing not only financial support but also technical support in terms of capacity building, in terms of monitoring and evaluation, in terms of assessing outcomes and making evidence-based decision making as well. On that note, I would like to ask Nixon ji to make the concluding remarks for the audience, followed by Sunita ji.
No, it was a very fruitful discussion in the sense that I could get perspectives from Dr. Gandhi also. And I would tell that the topic, that is foundation literacy, is a very, very important in the Indian context. And we should do it in a mission mode. And this Global Dreams has come out with a project which has been tried, piloted, successful, evidence-based. And if various funders could try to implement this project in various parts of India, this will be a very, very good force towards improving foundation literacy in India. Thank you.
Thank you, Nixon ji, for your comments. Dr. Gandhi. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Joseph. I think you've given such incredible perspectives on CSR and funding and sort of the macro view, a very humane view as well, of what could be done. You're coming from the heart, not just, oh, this is the guideline and ticking off on the checklist and so forth. So I really appreciate that. In line with the purpose of detox, and I'm really happy that you were part of the detox, we are talking about disrupting the status quo. The status quo is clearly not enough. And to disrupt, as you said also, and we agree that we need to be in a mission mode. What we need now, I think that other NGOs also, other civic society, anybody who has come with ideas, that we be given vent for large scale application. And this is where I think a lot of word has to get out to the government. I'm waiting to hear from the government. We have been approached by one of the governments, which has offered us to do a project with 26,000 out of school children who are being mainstreamed through special teaching. So that's really, really exciting because we can show, and we're creating a very nice research basis. We're hoping to have one of the research agencies work with us. We've been in discussion with JPAL in particular, but others also. And if we can do that project in a way that in a very, very short span of time, because we are talking about 30-hour literacy. So we'll get traction within a very, very short span of time, say 3 months, we can share data. So when we say education is long-term, I think we may need to modify our methodology and say, look, certain things can be done very quickly and results can be obtained very quickly, and we can showcase those results. And I would like to, therefore, get the message out to the governments in particular, and of course to CSR, that it will be very, very good if we can get the opportunity to demonstrate at a large scale this idea of 30 TR literacy in schools as well as with adult illiterates in a research mode as well. So we can then share that success story in a very scientific way with others. So it's not enough that you say, oh well, people got 30% more literate, or they have to be literate or not literate. They have to be foundationally literate or not literate. That means they're able to read a newspaper. They're able to to do certain concrete things in numeracy. They're able to meet the NIOS standards of grade 3, which is what the government wants us to do. So that, and it's possible. And this is where the exciting part is, if we can scale it up. So I'd say let's go disrupt literacy, let's go disrupt health, let's go do what's necessary, and not just sit around and talk the old, but get on with a new language. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you, Sunita ji. On that note, to both of you, Mr. Nixon Joseph ji and Sunita Gandhi ji, thank you so much for your very valuable time and insights. As we'll continue with the series of talks as well. Tomorrow we'll be having Dr. Stephen Peters from the US, who is the president of International Literacy Association, as well, who will be joining us on how literacy can be dealt with at the international level, if in terms of the commitments to SDG 4. Also, if you would like, we're always looking for partners to scale up literacy, our disruptive literacy as well. For that, you can reach out to us on our email, scaleup@globalDream.guru, which is scrolling at the bottom of your screen, or you can WhatsApp or call us at the given number as well. On that note, Nixon ji, Sunita ji, thank you again for your very valuable time. Hoping to have you again sometime in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so